Welcome, friends, to another episode of The Bible Yogi. I am your host, Douglas Roberts, and today we will be discussing Moses, the lawgiver, from the book of Exodus, the second book in the Pentateuch. A story with plenty of iconic images. Here I've asked Bing Image Creator to give me a picture of Moses in the burning bush, and it's done it quite accurately. It's got the green bush, it's not getting burnt up, and from the burning bush God first called Moses to become his mouthpiece, his prophet. And there's one slight flaw, but maybe not too much of a flaw, but Moses is shown here wearing his sandals, and the very first thing that God commanded of Moses was that he remove his sandals, because the ground upon which he was standing was holy. Now, in the previous episodes, I nominated Abraham as the greatest man in the Bible. Of course, I was meaning second greatest behind Jesus Christ, but there were two main facts that drove me to make this claim about Abraham. Number one, that Abraham's name was given to the temporary heaven in the Gospels, with the story of Lazarus and the rich man and the dogs licking his sores and all that. It was called Abraham's bosom. That's a pretty huge honor. Secondly, Abraham was the first Jew to perform circumcision on himself. And speaking as a man, I can respect that. If God had asked me to shave my beard or cut my hair, I might have said, maybe find someone else. I kind of like the hair, God, you know. But here's Abraham. He is performing circumcision on himself. He's quite the man. He is, the first one to do that. It's just amazing. But also because through his offspring came the promise of salvation, came Jesus Christ. And that was the main promise behind the covenant that God made with Abraham. So now let's go to the case for Moses. Having nominated Abraham, many might disagree and instead nominate Moses as the greatest prophet of the Old Testament. So in today's episode, I will begin to make the case for Moses, which is a very fun and entertaining exercise. In other words, it's kind of like who's the best basketball player? Is it LeBron or is it Michael Jordan? And it's always a fun argument to have. And I will not give away what I think on that one. Just I don't want to sabotage my own comment section or anything. So Moses had some iconic highlights and images. And I want to do more than just tell the story of Moses. I want to make the case for why he was so special. If you want to see a great movie that shows the story of Moses, as well as I think could be represented, is go see the movie The Ten Commandments, starring Charleton Heston, by Cecil B. DeMille. It was made back in the 50s, I believe, and it's amazing special effects for any era, much less back then. It was really great movie, and it tells the story very honestly, very straightforward. It almost goes directly from the Bible. He does take one little liberty, and that is that he puts Moses as like a very important figure within the Egyptian government. Now, this is an assumption. It's based upon some writings and some Egyptian, hieroglyphics that they found on various obelisks and whatnot. And so they presumed that the person that they were talking to had to be Moses. But we don't really know. It was guesswork, but it made for no one's going to say, that's totally wrong. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't change the story of Moses any, and it made a fine element for the movie. So, onward. The icons, or the iconic highlights, the icons in the story of Moses are the burning bush, the 10 plagues of Egypt, the first Passover, which corresponded with the last plague on Egypt. Water, he gets water from a rock. There's the parting of the Red Sea. There's manna from heaven and the 10 Commandments. And then Moses also was the man through which we got the Leviticus, the law of the land of Israel. Now, from the New Testament perspective, the law is literally referenced as Moses in 2 Corinthians 3:15. But even unto this day, when Moses is read, the veil is upon their heart. Even in the Old Testament, the Jewish law is referenced to the law of Moses. Here's a passage from 2 Kings 20-25 regarding King Josiah, who was one of the greatest kings they had. And like unto him was there no king before him that turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, with all his might, according to the law, all the law of Moses. Neither after him arose there any like him. Like I said, he was a great king. But there were plenty of other places in Kings and Chronicles where they referenced the law of Moses. But even the words of God himself are recorded in the book of Malachi, chapter 4, verse 4, where God is speaking, and he says, Remember ye the law of Moses, my servant, which I commanded unto him in Horeb for all Israel with the statutes and judgments. So it's not just that he wrote it. It's just that the law was given to the Israelites through Moses. So his name becomes synonymous with all the law. Now, in the New Testament, there's a remarkable story about the Transfiguration. The Transfiguration was Jesus took with him Peter, and I believe it was either John and James or James and Andrew, 3 disciples, of which Peter was one. That much I remember. And they went up onto this hill, and Jesus suddenly, his garments became white as light. Oh, I got the story right here. So let's just read it. And after 6 days, Jesus taketh up Peter, James, and John, his brother, and bringeth them up unto a high mountain apart, and was transfigured before them. And his face did shine as the sun, and his raiment was white as the light. And behold, there appeared unto them Moses and Elijah, talking with him. Behold, a bright cloud overshadowed them, and behold, a voice out of the cloud which said, This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased, hear ye him. And when the disciples heard it, they fell on their face and were sore afraid. And Jesus came and touched them and said, Arise, be not afraid. And when they lifted up their eyes, they saw no man except Jesus only. And what's interesting, in a different gospel, it mentions that they were talking to him, discussing his soon arrival in Jerusalem. How extraordinary is that Jesus is meeting on this hill, and he's transformed, and with him discussing salvation, and the whole redemption of mankind is Moses and Elijah. I mean, I don't think that there could be a greater honor bestowed upon a man in possible. God has him. Hey, let me talk to you about my plans. It's just crazy. But there you go. Now, God himself vouched for Moses when they, after rescuing the Israelites from bondage, from slavery in Egypt, where they were forced to make bricks, Moses had all kinds of problems, because he would go along and he said, I'm going to go talk to the Lord, and I'll be back in 30 days or whatever. So he would go, and the people would rebel, and the people would murmur against Moses. And they would say, we don't know what's happened to this fellow, and complaints like that. But God himself vouches for him. In Exodus 33:11, And the Lord spake unto Moses face to face, as a man speaketh unto his friend. Now, all of us, modern Christians, we don't get this kind of face-to-face talking with God. I mean, imagine that. It's incredible. We all just pray, to the ceiling, to the heavens. We don't have God come and sit down at our table and talk with us. We are strictly by faith. As the gospel says, blessed are those who have not seen and yet believe. That's us. In another scripture it says, we believe in things that angels would long to look. In other words, it is a remarkable thing that we have faith without ever seeing God. In Deuteronomy 34:10, and there arose not a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. In all the signs and wonders which the Lord sent him to do in the land of Egypt, and to Pharaoh, and to all his servants, to all his land, and in all that mighty hand, and in all the great terror which Moses shewed in the sight of all Israel. And so that Deuteronomy, especially, is 34. We're getting toward the end of Moses' life. And so God is that's Moses' obituary right there. In the book of Numbers, chapter 12, this is one of those situations where Moses was being contended with, and by none other than Miriam and Aaron, who are Moses' siblings. And Miriam and Aaron spake against Moses because of the Ethiopian woman whom he had married. You're not supposed to marry outside of your race, and yet here's Moses, marrying outside of his race. Well, what about that? For he had married an Ethiopian woman. We'll get into how this all happened later. There's lots of interesting things in Moses' life. That certainly was one of them. Numbers 12:2. And they said, hath the Lord indeed spoken only by Moses? Hath he not also spoken by us? And which is true. The Lord did give them words of prophecy, and especially Aaron. Aaron was the spokesman, and there was this relationship that they had. Moses would talk to God, and then he would turn around and he would tell Aaron what God told him. And then Aaron, who had a better speaking voice and was bolder, he would go and speak to Pharaoh. Anyway, so the Lord heard Miriam and Aaron murmuring against Moses. And so 12:3, the Bible says, now the man, Moses, was very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. Now that's curious, and I would love to aspire to be meek. That's one of the criticisms I've gotten all my life, is that I'm an arrogant dude, and I try not to be. But what can you do? Sometimes this way you come across. And Numbers 12:4. And the Lord spake suddenly unto Moses and unto Aaron and unto Miriam, come out ye three unto the tabernacle of the congregation. And they three came out. And the Lord came down in the pillar of the cloud and stood in the door of the tabernacle and called Aaron and Miriam, and they both came forth. It's like you think you get afraid when the boss wants to talk to you. How about when God calls you by name? Hey, you. But they came forth, so you've got to give them credit. And he said, hear now my words. If there be a prophet among you, I, the Lord, will make myself known unto him in a vision, and will speak unto him in a dream, similar to Joseph. My servant Moses is not so, who is faithful in all mine house. With him will I speak mouth to mouth, even apparently, and not in dark speeches. No allegories, no 7 cattle coming up and eating the grain and all that. And the similitude of the Lord shall he behold. Wherefore then were ye not afraid? Why were you not afraid to speak against my servant Moses? And the anger of the Lord was kindled against them, and he departed. And the cloud departed from off the tabernacle, and behold, Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, and behold, she was leprous. If you don't know what leprosy is, it's this terrible, incurable disease that we've all but eliminated from the face of the earth nowadays. I think there was one case in my lifetime, and I don't even know if that person is still alive. But leprosy was the situation where your skin turned gray, and you would die from this horrible disease. Your flesh would just rot right off your body. And the only way that we could deal with this disease, since it was highly contagious, was to quarantine all lepers. And there became a leper colony on one of the islands of Hawaii. And there was a priest who made it his life to take care of these people. And only in his old age did he finally contract leprosy himself. But that was how we eliminated leprosy from the earth. So, in other words, if you got it way back here, you're in trouble. So Miriam gets struck with leprosy. And Aaron said unto Moses, Alas, my Lord, I beseech thee, lay not the sin upon us, wherein we have done foolishly, and wherein we have sinned. Let her not be as one dead, of whom the flesh is half consumed, when he comes out of his mother's womb. And Moses cried unto the Lord, saying, Heal her now, God, I beseech thee. And the Lord said unto Moses, If her father had but spit in her face, should she not be ashamed 7 days? Let her be shut out from the camp 7 days, and after that let her be received in again. And Miriam was shut out from the camp 7 days, and the people journeyed not till Miriam was brought in again. And that, my friends, is one of the more curious utterances I've ever found in the Bible that God said. And with that, well, next time we're going to cover the story of Moses more linearly and try to hit the highlights and talk about the way the story is told, the miracles Moses did, and why many believe he is the greatest man in all the Bible. Until then, everybody, please take care.